This is Fox 11 Forum, a look at issues of concern to Tucson and Nogales, with your host, Bob Lee.
Good morning. I hope you're having a nice weekend. Imagine if you were an abandoned, cold, dehydrated, frail, and extremely weak Bob kitten with mom nowhere to be found. Fortunately, two such Bob kittens who found themselves in this predicament not long ago were taken to a place here in Tucson where they were raised appropriately and eventually returned to the wild. Now, this is just one example of the many wild animals that have been rescued, rehabilitated, and released by the Tucson Wildlife Center. More on the center in just a minute. As you might suspect, we're going to have some animals on the program this morning. I'm going to nickname myself Jungle Bob Lee as we go along, I think. Along with Lisa Bates, my guest this morning, founded the Tucson Wildlife Center in 1998 as a nonprofit organization dedicated to the rescue, rehabilitation, and release of injured and orphaned wild animals throughout southern Arizona. Peter Leininger is vice president and co-founder of the Tucson Wildlife Center. Thank you for coming in. It's been a long time since Jim Sloan's Christmas party where we first started talking about this.
Good to be here, Bob.
But here we are. Long time ago, we had Lisa on the program, and back then it was called Tucson Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Why the slight name?
Well, we got incorporated as a nonprofit in 2000, and we wanted to add Tucson to it, so that the timing was right.
Long story short. Now, going into the program, I mentioned Jack and Jill, the rescued Bob kittens, and what happened to them ultimately is pretty much typical, isn't it?
Yes, it is. A lot of them come in orphaned for one reason or another. The mother will get hit by a car, or sometimes, like in Wilbur's case, his den was bulldozed. And they come in without parents. So we have a surrogate mother that we put them with, and she kind of teaches them how to be a bobcat.
So in the case of Jack and Jill and other Bob kittens, you have a mama kitten,
a surrogate,
that will basically take them under her, not wing, but under her paw.
Under her paw, yeah.
And teach them what they need to know, even though she's basically domesticated?
No, she's not domesticated, but she does give them love and teaches them what she can. Obviously, it's not an ideal setting where they have all the prey items that are out in the wild, but she does teach them how to be a cat, and that helps.
Are you licensed? I understand that there's some sort of licensure in Arizona regarding
yes, absolutely.
the care and keeping of wild animals?
Absolutely. It's illegal to possess them unless you are licensed, and we're licensed by the Arizona Game and Fish and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
And that would, I assume, then licensed as a rehabilitator?
As a rehabilitator,
so
yes.
Me, Jungle Bob Lee here, can't go get a license just so I can own a Wilbur type dude?
No, you have to take testing, schooling, train under a licensed rehabber, pass inspections by Game and Fish. It's pretty well controlled.
Now, what if I find a bull snake or something like that and I want to hang on to it? Am I breaking a law?
No, it's legal to render aid to the animal and to transport it to a licensed rehabber.
But if I decide to keep him myself...
That's highly illegal to keep the animal.
Although many people probably do, and probably
some
don't even know
people
they're breaking
do,
the law.
And it's bad for the animal. It usually turns out bad. They get habituated.
And that's not good for anybody.
Not good.
You do use these creatures in presentations. Here they are in my studio.
Right.
You take them to schools. Are there special provisions for that?
Yes, these are education animals. They're non-releasable. So they go around to schools and different events to teach the public about wild animals.
Now, we dropped a name here, Wilbur, and I'm sure everybody's saying, Wilbur, that's gotta be a bobcat or a wildcat. Speaking of cats, what's the difference? I mean, bobcat, wildcat, are they the same?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Just like a cougar and a mountain lion are the same animal.
But these are not cougars or mountain lions.
No, these are bobcats.
And as once Wilbur walks into the set here, we're going to see that he's a rather big bobcat.
Give me your Wilbur.
And he's fairly domesticated. Isn't
Well, we've had Wilbur since he was about 3 weeks old. And he came in because his den was bulldozed.
And I guess that happens a lot around southern Arizona, doesn't it?
It does. They rarely clear the land of any dens or tortoises or whatever other animals are in a vacant lot. They just bulldoze it for whatever.
Right on in, and
Right.
fortunately he survived.
Right, he survived. He had a head injury and he gets seizures. So that's why he's non-releasable. He's never known the wild. He came in at 3 weeks old.
Can we get him to, hey Wilbur, why don't you turn around over here and take a look at, no, I know you want to, I know, I fed you. Look at that. He didn't even bite me yet. There you go. Now we can see your pretty face. Now you mentioned he has seizures. So how do you treat these guys as opposed to how I might treat a pet? Same thing?
They're the same medications that people get and that dogs and cats get. It's the same medication for seizures.
And one of the things we want to mention, and we might as well get to that right now, in terms of some of the resources that you have at the Wildlife Center, you're going to build a hospital for these creatures?
Yes, we're undertaking to build a first-class facility for our doctors to work in and teach in. It's going to be about 6,000 feet. We're fundraising for it at the moment.
When do you think this will be up and ready to?
We're hoping to break ground by the end of the year.
Now, so what you're saying is there's no facility now. I mean, I'm imagining that if you were to take this to one of the animal hospitals around here, they're going to say, "Are you kidding?"
Right. We do work with quite a few veterinarians around Tucson. Dr. Jack Quick has been with us from the beginning. They do see some animals in their businesses, but it's better if they come to us.
This kind of comes back to why you and Lisa started this thing in the first place back in the 90s. You had a raccoon or something that...
Yes, we could not find anyone in town that would help us with a badly injured raccoon. And my wife decided then and there, she's not going to let it happen again. She's going to get these animals help. And we partnered with Jack Quick, and we've been helping them since. And each year the numbers grow. We start out at about 200 animals a year. We're now up to about 700 animals a year.
And Wilbur just figured out where the chow is. And he was coming around. He was real friendly to me too, because before we started taping, I gave him some food. So he already is looking to me for a little bit more. I'll tell you, this is a huge deal compared to the little kitty cat I have at home.
Wilbur's about 40 pounds. He's a little large.
How old is he?
He's 7 years old. And in the wild, they get to be about 30 pounds for a big cat.
So he's well fed.
He's well fed and pampered a little bit.
What's the lifespan of a cat like this?
In the wild, maybe 8 years. In captivity, we don't know. I'm guessing like a domestic cat.
So
it could be 18 years.
15 up to 20. And I guess the reason being life in the wild is a little more challenging.
Yes, he does. In the wild, they don't get 2 squares a day in a heated home. And
one quick question before we got to take a break and look at some of the other creatures you brought in here. Is Wilbur, what are some of the typical creatures that are brought in? I imagine you see more one species than another.
It's pretty much across the board right now. It's springtime, so we'll see a lot of baby owls right now, and then it will go to baby hawks, and there'll be red-tailed hawks, and then Harris hawks. Goes in cycles, and then we get a lot of bob kittens. We've gotten baby coyotes in this week, coated Mondays, raccoons, fox. hawks, owls, and eagles.
And for you guys, the goal always is to, whenever possible,
Get them back to
get
the
them
wild.
back where they belong.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to look at some feathered creatures, and hopefully it will work out. Stay with us as we continue talking about the Tucson Wildlife Center. Welcome back. We're talking with Peter Leininger, the co-founder of Tucson Wildlife Center. The graphic brings to mind if you're happen upon an injured wild animal, whether it's a bird or something else, what should you do?
Well, render aid. If it's obviously injured, call us or one of the other rehabbers. We're in the phone book. Quite often the parents are right there, you just can't see them.
Yeah, and what about that? Are they likely to be protective? Say you find a baby Wilbur.
Mama will let you know that she doesn't approve.
And so then you just basically let it up to
Let
mama
it
to take care of it.
alone, pretty much, unless it's obviously injured.
Now, you know, from time to time, you know, animals come in contact with vehicles, and sometimes they survive. If in a situation like that, should the vehicle operator stop and render aid if possible? Or?
Absolutely. We've had the Tucson police stop traffic and render aid, call us on an injured owl in the middle of an intersection. And if the bird has a broken bone, we've got 2 human orthopedic surgeons that will hopefully repair the bones and go through rehab, and then he eventually gets released.
All right, we go from Wilbur, who is fairly common, and sometimes you see him sitting in the rocks when you're hiking up in Mount Lemmon. On the other hand, from time to time, you'll see Igor or some of his buddies flying overhead in the desert. Igor is what?
Igor is a black vulture, and they're not as common around here as our turkey vultures that have a reddish head. They are more common to like Florida, but they do pass through here when they're migrating south to Mexico.
How did you happen? I mean, was he migrating someplace, and how did you wind up with him?
Actually, someone on the south side took him from his nest, and they were pulling his toenails and feathers and making potions. And they got a big fine from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. All the animals in the desert are protected from the tortoises, the snakes, the birds. They're all protected.
So they had, first of all, how did Fish and Game become aware that this was going on? Somebody rat them out? Well,
when in this case, we were called that they had the bird tethered up behind the business on a stoop, backyard stoop, and he was not being fed properly, and they got a $5,000 fine, and next time is time in jail.
Yeah, the second offense is not a happy occasion.
Right, right.
So they really do, when they become aware of people breaking the law with these, they come down pretty hard.
Absolutely.
So why have you kept him?
Because he was so young, he was imprinted, and once a bird is imprinted, they will not take a mate.
Now, what does that mean?
They won't live to breed. They want to.
When you say imprinted, that means human contact of some sort?
Human contact. They get so used to humans, they won't accept one as their own as their mate. They want to basically think they're human.
So if Igor's going to survive, he pretty much has to stay with you.
Right.
Now, what does somebody like this, listen to me, some creature like this eat?
We've tried to feed all our animals their natural diet. He gets quail halves and mice, and all the food that we feed out, we buy from zoo suppliers. So we are not going to kill one animal to feed another animal.
So
Igor.
the law of the wild doesn't quite
No.
apply. We should introduce Igor's handler here because she's really being put to the test here, trying to keep him in camera here.
Just being typical Igor.
This is Lori. She is one of our volunteers, been with us for 8 years or something like that.
Yeah, about 10.
About 10 years.
And volunteers, we should get in a plug for that right now. Volunteers
Yes.
are crucial to keeping this thing
We
operating.
could not do it without the volunteers. We've got approximately 70 volunteers that help day in, day out, cleaning the cages, going on rescues, the releases.
Coming in here, putting up with this nonsense.
Yeah, it's never dull. It's always something.
Now, Lori really seems to know what she's doing there. I assume there's a certain some training that some of these folks receive in order to deal with these
Absolutely,
creatures.
absolutely, because everything in the desert is armed and dangerous, and the people that handle the mammals have to have their rabies shots or pre-exposure. So yes, we do extensive training.
Do you have a couple of vets that are essentially your vets, or are you relying on the veterinary community to?
We work with about 6 or 7 veterinarians, and we have 2 human orthopedic surgeons that come out and they'll work on bats. To Dr. Bill's first animal was a baby skunk that sprayed in the hospital room and broke him in correctly, and he keeps coming back.
So you have a supply of tomato juice on hand then to help with that?
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to look at a couple of other creatures that again are quite common and that you see. So stay with us as we continue talking about Tucson Wildlife Center. Are you involved in the search for the